Good afternoon and welcome to the Committee on Commerce and Labor. Secretary, please take roll.
Assembly members Anderson, Carter, present. Cole, Hardy, Howdigy, Kasama, Miller, Monroe Moreno, O'Neill, Roth, Torres Fawcett, Yeager, Urick, and Chair Marzola.
And I am here. Please mark members present as they arrive. Also mark Assemblymember Hardy absent excused. Welcome everyone that is here with us in Carson City, everyone in Las Vegas, and anyone tuning in over the internet. Today we will hear two bills, Assembly Bill 327, or actually Senate Bill 327 and Senate Bill 352. Before we get started, I do have a few housekeeping announcements. Members of the public may provide testimony in various ways, all of which are listed on the agenda. When testifying, please remember to turn on your microphone to speak and off to listen. Also, please remember to state and spell your name for the record. If you have handouts for the committee, please provide 20 copies to the committee secretary prior to your testimony. Committee information is available on the legislature's website. You may also watch our meetings through the legislature's YouTube channel. We ask that public comments be kept to 2 minutes per person so that everyone can be accommodated. As always, I expect courtesy and respect in all our interactions, even if we may not agree. Finally, please remember to put your electronic devices, especially your cell phones, either on off mode or silent mode. And with that, we will move to our first agenda item. I will now open the hearing on Senate Bill 327. This measure revises provisions relating to contractors. Welcome, Senator Cruz Crawford. You may begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chair and Committee. Thank you so much for having me here today. I am Shelley Cruz Crawford. I represent Senate District 1 in Clark County, specifically North Las Vegas, and I am pleased to present Senate Bill 327 today, which revises certain bond requirements for contractors. I was really looking for a small business bill and found this need. My husband and I started a construction business years ago, and we knew there was a need. It was very difficult to get insured, bonded, starting off, and I was happy to pick up this idea. So my co-presenter today is Adam Brackmeyer. He's the Vice President of Government Affairs for Surety Fidelity Associates of America, and he is going to walk through the portions of the bill.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Adam Brackmeyer, A-D-A-M-B-R-A-C-K-E-M-Y-R-E, and I'm with the Surety and Fidelity Association of America. The purpose behind our bill, last year there was a surety bond company whose rating was downgraded from A to A-, and under Nevada law, all of the contractors who had bonds with this company had to get new bonds, even though it didn't appear that there was any solvency concern about the bonds. So we looked at this entire process where the contractor board notified the contractors. The contractors would have had to provide new bonds within 30 days. And we thought, what public policy or what public protection is this process providing? Because there doesn't seem to be anyone that anyone has been able to articulate or define. So maybe there's a different way to provide a secondary screening of sureties. And during our conversation with contractors and the licensing board, one of the ideas that was suggested was treasury listing or T-listing. A neighboring state, Utah, uses this as a requirement for its contractor bonds. There's a viable contractor bond market there. I pulled data for the contractors' bonds issued in this state. All of them are treasury listed. There would not be any disruption. And dealing with the current process, which would require the contractors board to evaluate all of these rating requirements on probably 40 or 50 different surety companies, monitor that, and then notify contractors that their bond needs to be replaced when there's no threat in solvency. We think there's a better process, and that would be T-listing. That's the purpose of the bill today, and I'd be welcome to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Chair Marzola, I do have a few more specific details about this bill that I'd like to share.
Will you be going through the bill for us?
Yes.
Thank you.
This bill revises two NRS sections, NRS 624.270 and NRS 624.276, respectively, regarding the requirements for an applicant for the contractor's license or contractor to obtain bonds in certain circumstances. Such bonds must currently be provided from a person whose long-term debt obligations are rated A or better by a nationally recognized rating agency. Instead, this bill requires that the bond to be provided by a person who is, at the time of the execution of the bond, listed as a certificate holding company in the United States Department of Treasury, Circular Number 570, published pursuant to certain federal regulations set forward in this bill. And I stand for any questions.
Thank you for being here today and your presentation. Before I ask the committee members if they have any questions, I have a quick one. I know that in your presentation you stated that Utah uses the T listing. How many other states use the T listing as well?
Chair, to my knowledge, there is no state other than Utah that requires T-listing as a requirement. Generally speaking, states do not require a secondary screening of sureties. Licensure is good enough.
Thank you. Committee members, are there any questions? Assemblymember Cole.
Hello, thank you for the presentation. So my day job involves working with contractors who have to get these kinds of insurance policies, right? So I think it might be helpful for all of the committee members for you to explain what a surety bond does and how it protects the underlying consumers to make sure that contractors do their job and do them properly. And then my other question is, on the sureties, had there ever been sureties that have gone out of business? If that makes sense, like they have lost that underlying ability to do what they need to do? Because my concern is that we're going to have consumers that are not protected as much if you have the A or the A minus, because A minus still qualifies, correct, under the board?
Thank you very much, Assemblymember, for your question. A surety bond is a...
Can you state?
I'm sorry, Adam Barackmeyer, responding to the question. Did I do that right? Thank you. The surety bond is a financial guarantee made by a financial institution, and the amount of the bond is required by the board. It can be anywhere between, I believe, anywhere from $5,000 to $500,000. So it's at the board's discretion for how much the bond is to be. The contractor provides a premium for the bond, which is due every year. And that money is available for consumers in the event that there needs to be access to funds in case the consumer is harmed. If a contractor were to go to your house, say, cut some pipes, your house floods, then there's a pool of money available if the contractor isn't willing to fix the problem and make the consumer whole again. So the short answer is it's available, pool of money available for consumers. In the event a surety does go insolvent, there are occasions when sureties go insolvent, just like banks and other financial institutions. In the event that the surety goes bankrupt, there's a liquidation process where some consumers are made whole, but until there is some provision that allows for either a public backstop or some assessments on the insurety industry, then just like any bankruptcy, some claimants will receive as much as they can.
Committee members, any additional questions? I don't see any, so I'll give you a couple of seconds to step back before we start support testimony. Is there anyone in Carson City wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 327? Please remember to state and spell your name for the record.
M-A-R-K, S as in Sam, E-K-T, N as in Nancy, A-N. I'm with the American Property Casualty Insurance Association, and we're in support of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in Carson City wishing to testify in support? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 327? Don't see anyone walking up. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
Chair, the lines are open and working, but we have no callers to testify in support at this time.
Thank you. We will move to testimony in opposition. Is there anyone in Carson City wishing to testify in opposition? I don't see anyone. I see people in Las Vegas. Please remember to state and spell your name for the record. You may begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chair Marzola, Vice Chair Howdegi, and members of the committee. My name is David Behar for the record. That's B-E-H-A-R. I'm the Executive Officer for the Nevada State's Contractors Board, and I'm here today in opposition of SB 327. The Nevada State Contractors Board currently regulates more than 18,000 licensed contractors across our state, and we're responsible for protecting their health, safety, and welfare. One of our responsibilities is to ensure that licensed contractors in our state maintain a bond rated A or better by a nationally recognized rating agency pursuant to NRS 624.270. To explain why the Contractors Board requires this rating, I'll briefly explain the history of how our existing standards came to be. In the late 90s and early 2000s, numerous surety companies became insolvent. In early 2001, AmWest, a surety company conducting business in Nevada, went bankrupt. As a result, Nevada contractors who held their bonds suddenly became canceled, and the company became insolvent. The downfall of AmWest was triggered by the company writing large, low-rated surety bonds to contractors while simultaneously placing minimal emphasis on collateral to financially support them. Shortly thereafter, another surety, Frontier Pacific Insurance Company, also became insolvent, leading to thousands of additional contractors across our state being impacted. To address this issue, our board worked tirelessly with legislators back in 2001 and required sureties who did business in Nevada to be rated A or better by a nationally recognized agency. I'm proud to say that the enactment of that legislation remained the industry standard for our contractors and has been ever since. In closing, because history often repeats itself, the Contractors Board feels that lessening the current standards that have been in place for decades would be a considerable step backwards that significantly reduces the protections that currently exist for both our industry and the members of the public. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Marzola and members of the committee. My name is Bree Welch, for the record, W-E-L-C-H. I'm currently the licensing supervisor for the Nevada State Contractors Board, and I am here today in opposition of Senate Bill 327. I've been with the board for over 20 years, and I only recall the rating of surety companies who write surety bonds for our licensees falling under an excellent rating on 2 separate occasions. We currently accept bonds with an excellent or higher rating. These ratings mean that the insurance companies have the superior or excellent ability to meet ongoing insurance obligations. Based on best financial strength rating, any rating below an A or an A- indicate that the financial strength of the insurance company could be vulnerable to adverse changes in underwriting and economic condition, which could impact their ability to meet ongoing insurance obligations, thus impacting public protection. If a licensed contractor's surety bond does fall under an excellent bond rating, they are provided with a 30-day grace period to get a new bond in place or provided with the opportunity to post a cash bond. Although failure to get a new bond in place within that 30-day requirement could result in a temporary suspension, this is crucial for the public's protection. In the time I've been with the board, it is rare that we'd hear of a contractor having an issue obtaining a new surety bond, especially if they've already held a bond with no claims or lapse in coverage. The contractors that would typically have issues obtaining a new bond would be the ones that don't meet the credit or financial wherewithal required by the bonding company. In order to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the public, we feel the bond rating requirement on surety bonds is crucial. This protection provides reassurance to the public that bonding companies have the ability to meet their ongoing insurance obligations, and for these reasons, we oppose Senate Bill 327. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Marzola and committee members. My name is Ann Barnett, for the record, CEO for the Nevada Contractors Association. NCA represents the commercial construction industry here in Southern Nevada, including general contractors, subcontractors, suppliers, and businesses that are affiliated with the industry. First, I want to acknowledge that NCA did testify in support in the Senate. Support was based on information that we had at the time. However, since the hearing, NCA members have raised concerns about revising the standards for bonding companies. We do want to thank the bill sponsor and the proponents for discussing with us this week. Thank you very much for hearing our testimony.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in Las Vegas wishing to testify in opposition? You may begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Lisa Stevens, Lisa-Stevens, and I'm testifying in opposition to Senate Bill 327 as currently written. I've been a licensed broker in Nevada since 1996, and I'm speaking today as a board member of the Surety and Fidelity Association of Nevada. While we generally align with the national SFAA, we respectfully disagree with their support of this bill. SB 327 proposes replacing the long-standing AM Best rating requirement for contractor license bonds with the U.S. Treasury listing. We believe this change does not serve Nevada's contractors, consumers, or economy. It benefits only a select part of the surety industry. The claim that a current A rating requirement restricts access to bonding simply isn't supported by the data. Only 36 of over 18,000 licenses had to be rewritten due to a rating downgrade, which is less than 0.2%. Those contractors found new bonds quickly, showing that the system works. Nevada currently has 212 licensed sureties rated A- or better. We are not facing a shortage of bonding options. Unlike T listings, which are updated once a year, AM Best ratings are monitored continuously, offering real, transparent financial insight. This is critical for protecting the public, property owners, employees, subcontractors, and suppliers, all whom rely on contractor bonds for protection. In 2010, Western Insurance Company based in Nevada was downgraded by AM Best before being placed into liquidation in 2011, leaving contractors and bondholders with little recourse for claims. That downgrade served as a vital warning, something a T listing alone would not have provided. If a change is needed, we recommend including A- sureties in the statute, which are still considered excellent, but removing AM Best entirely would reduce oversight and consumer protection. AM Best remains the most reliable indicator of a surety's financial strength to pay claims, and we urge you not to discount that. Thank you for your time and your commitment to protecting Nevada's public and business community.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else in Las Vegas? Broadcast, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in opposition?
Here, we have no callers to testify in opposition at this time.
Thank you. We will move to neutral testimony. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in neutral? You may begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Adam Plain, P-L-A-I-N, with the Nevada Division of Insurance. I was planning on sitting this one out. The division has no horse in the race on what rating organization the state uses. Just did want to clarify, though, because Assemblymember Cole asked the question. Surety companies are licensed insurers in Nevada under 679A.100. But under 687A.020, surety and fidelity bonds are explicitly excluded from the Guarantee Association coverage as backstop in case of an insolvency. So just wanted to put that out there to answer the question. Thank you.
Thank you for the information. Is there anyone else in Carson City wishing to testify in neutral? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in neutral? Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
Chair, we have no callers for neutral.
Thank you. Senator, would you like to give any final remarks?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, committee. A lot of the opposition came very, very last minute, so we'll continue to work with them so that we can get to something that will be work for all Nevadans. Thank you.
And Madam Chair, very briefly, Adam Brockmeyer, sorry. Our members work with Treasury. Treasury has an ongoing monitoring of all surety's financial data, public financial data, and they have regular meetings to examine their financial solvency because the Department of Treasury is meant there to guarantee the many millions and billions of dollars of construction that's backed by surety. So they provide a significant overview of surety companies. I talked to one of our members who was meeting with Treasury last week. These meetings occur throughout the year. Those meetings are not necessarily public because they're discussions between a private organization and the government. I describe them more as negotiations, and they may not be as public as, say, a rating agency discussion when they announce a meeting or some type of rating review. But Treasury, in our members' view, does an excellent job of screening the finances of sureties, and I just wanted to point that out, and I didn't raise that in my initial testimony. Thank you.
Thank you for your final remarks and for being with us here. I will now close the hearing on Senate Bill 327. I will now open the hearing on Senate Bill 352. This measure revises provisions relating to health care. Welcome. You may begin when you're ready.
Thank you so much. My name is Melanie Scheibel. I am the state senator for District 9 in Southwest Las Vegas, and I'm very pleased to be here today to present SB 352 to you. When you look at this bill, it's about 6 or 7 pages long. You're actually looking at a one-page bill that repeats 6 times because, as you all know, as members of the Commerce and Labor Committee, when you change something for insurance policies, you have to do it in all 6 sections of the NRS. So really what SB 352 does is it ensures that we put into state law the protections that currently exist at the federal level for non-discrimination. And those include protected characteristics including age, sex, national origin, race, and we've added, for Nevadans, gender and gender identity. And when I say we've added, I mean we added back in 2023 gender identity and gender for Nevadans, but we had not realized at the time that we might also be living in a world where those federal protections were no longer guaranteed for everybody who is seeking health insurance on the Silver State Exchange or in the open market. And so briefly, that is the purpose of SB 352, is to place into state law the current federal protections, frankly, in case those go away, so that when Nevadans go to purchase health care on the open market, they cannot be discriminated against based on their, race, sex, gender, religion, gender identity, sexual orientation. And we worked hard to get this bill to a place where insurers could be in agreement with it to address concerns that came from industry. And I'd like to pass it over now to my partner, Jessica Munger from Silver State Equality, to speak a little bit more to the policy.
Hi, good afternoon, Chair Marzola and committee members. My name is Jessica Munger, M-U-N-G-E-R. I'm the programs manager for Silver State Equality, Nevada's statewide LGBTQ+ civil rights organization. Health insurance coverage directly relates to the quality of life for most people, determining if and how our medical needs are met and how much the meeting of those needs will impact our financial future. Unfortunately, for LGBTQ+ people, healthcare and insurance coverage are often fraught with discrimination, inaccessibility, stigma, and misunderstanding. However, the Affordable Care Act helped to change some of that by increasing coverage for LGBTQ people and our unique healthcare needs. LGBTQ+ individuals often face disparities in health insurance coverage and access to care, which can lead to poorer health outcomes and increased rates of certain chronic conditions. These disparities are linked to stigma, discrimination, and socioeconomic factors, as well as policies that may not adequately address the specific health needs of our community. The Federal Affordable Care Act prevents discrimination based on race, color, national origin, age, disability, and sex, but protections for LGBTQ+ people have needed strengthening. For example, in 2020, the Bustock v. Clayton County, Georgia ruling by the Supreme Court held that Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibits employment discrimination based on sex, which includes discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. As a result of this ruling, the Office of Civil Rights under the Biden administration interpreted Section 1557 of the Affordable Care Act to prohibit discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. However, unfortunately, this year, the new Trump administration issued an executive order rescinding the Biden executive order preventing and combating discrimination on the basis of gender identity and sexual orientation, which was applied to the Affordable Care Act, as well as another executive order removing affordable care health coverage, specifically for transgender young people at the federal level. Thankfully, last session, as Senator Scheibel stated, this legislature signed SB 163 into law, preventing certain insurance companies, including Medicaid, from discriminating against covering someone based on their perceived or actual gender identity and expression. So we need to enshrine into law in Nevada those same protections based on sexual orientation so that whatever happens at the federal level, there is coverage in Nevada. So it's imperative that this language related to sexual orientation be added for insurance coverage, including Nevada's ACA exchange. Ultimately, we need to make sure that whatever happens at the federal level with this slew of anti-LGBTQ+ executive orders and how laws are interpreted, that there is consistent non-discrimination protections for all Nevadans. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your presentation. Are you going to go through the bill?
I can go through the bill if you'd like. Sure. So if you're looking at Section 1, basically what we've done is we have taken in all of those subsections 1 through 4 and replaced where the current law protects anybody based on gender identity or expression and substituted instead the term protected characteristic. So that would address whether the insurer is issuing a policy. That would be subsection 1. Subsection 2 would be about the denial of health care. So subsection A would be canceling the policy. Subsection B would be about increasing the premium based on a protected characteristic. Subsection C is preventing a family member from joining the policy based on their membership in one of those protected classes. So an insurance company can't say that we're not going to cover your kid because of their disability status or because of their gender orientation or sexual orientation or gender identity. Subsection 1 and 2, I think I was on subsection D. Sorry, subsection C is the family member. Subsection D is the participation of the primary insured person. And that's basically existing law, but replacing the gender identity or expression language with protected characteristic, which is then defined down in subsection 4 to include race, color, national origin, age, physical or mental disability, sexual orientation or gender identity or expression, or sex, including without limitation, sex characteristics, intersex traits, and pregnancy or related conditions. Section 1, I believe, if I refer back to my NRS, applies to private health insurers. And then I may get these wrong. I'd be happy to follow up with the committee, but I think Section 2 repeats the same language for public health insurance. Section 3 repeats it for 689C, which is small employers. Section 4 is for 695A, which are fraternal organizations that provide health insurance coverage. Subsection 5 applies to hospitals and other medical services corporations. Section 6 applies to HMOs. Section 7 also applies to HMOs. Managed care organizations, MCOs. Right. Sorry, you're quizzing me here. And finally, Section 8 applies to Medicaid, and Section 9 adds an additional section to clarify that if there are other types of health insurance coverage that are not covered under one of those particular sections, they would still be subject to the same anti-discrimination requirements. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your presentation and going through the bill. We appreciate that. And I will start with Speaker Yeager.
Thank you so much, Chair. I have a comment and then a question, if I could. I want to thank you for bringing the bill. It's a little bit disconcerting. Well, it's a lot disconcerting to me that historically the federal government has been at the forefront of protecting its citizens when it comes to matters like this and a lot of other matters. And we're not in that world anymore. We're in a world where those protections are being intentionally eroded. I do think that provides an opportunity for the states, and I do think it highlights the importance of what state legislatures do, that we no longer can count on the federal government to step in and make sure that people are being treated fairly. So I want to thank you for bringing the bill. The question I have is, not just in this area, but there are a lot of areas of federal law that certain states are attempting to put into their state law on the belief, probably a legitimate belief, that the federal protections are going away. So have other states done this that you know of, or are we going to be the first one this legislative season to put this into our state law?
Melanie Scheibel, for the record, I am not aware of any other states that are taking this step. I don't want to say that we'd be the first because I can't confirm that, but I've not been able to find any legislation proposed elsewhere that does the same thing.
Thank you, Sharon. If I could just have a follow-up, not a question, but a comment. Anything you can do to share this concept with other states who might still be in legislative sessions and find this to be an appropriate way to protect their citizens and make sure they get health care. I think we should try to get that message out while folks are still in session, and hopefully we are the first, because it's nice to be the first when we do something good, but would love to see other states follow suit. So if you can get the word out to other states that they may want to take a look at this in anticipation of harmful federal decisions that will likely be coming down. Thank you, Chair.
Committee members, any additional questions or comments? Assemblymember Cole.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. So my question is in relation to adding age into the protected characteristic. I just happen to know that my insurance premiums go up every year, and my husband is 13 years older than I am, and so his rates are much higher than mine. And my question is, by including the word age in here, are we making this kind of be a flat premium? So now my 24-year-old's insurance premiums are going to go up to cover my 65-year-old husband. Thank you.
Melanie Scheibel, for the record, great question, and it was our friend, Mr. Plain, from the Insurance Division that helped us write language that addresses that question. It's in subsection 3 of section 1 that says that the insurer can still take age into account when setting the premium level within the confines of other federal laws. And the reason that age is included in there is because it is included in the Affordable Care Act in section 1557 of chapter 42. So hopefully we would never have to litigate a claim, but the purpose then would be to thread that needle, that of course an insurance company can raise premiums with age, but they can't refuse to cover everybody under the age of 60. Or if you are 50 and married to somebody who's older than you, they can't refuse to cover your spouse because they've exceeded that age of 60.
Assemblymember O'Neill.
Thank you, Chair. And I have two questions. Hopefully they're quick and more or less easy. Senator Scheibel, I appreciate you bringing this forward. And in your presentation, did I understand you correctly that you said that the insurance companies actually asked you to carry this or present this at their request?
Melanie Scheibel, for the record, no, I meant that we did work with insurance companies to ensure that they were comfortable with the language, that it mirrored the federal protections and the current protections in state law, which included gender identity or expression, which is not at the federal level, so that on the whole, for Nevada insurance companies, this won't change the non-discrimination that they've already been practicing. But going forward, if things change at the federal level, they would stay the same at the state level.
And may I follow up with, I appreciate that clarification. So on some of the insurance, particularly under the Affordable Care Act, will that change any of the reimbursements if the federal level don't mirror our protections? Will that change what they'll pay for? Or can they have any other financial influence on us?
Melanie Scheibel, for the record. So I think what you're asking is if the Affordable Care Act, if portions of the Affordable Care Act were repealed or reinterpreted to no longer require everybody to practice this kind of non-discrimination. That's not a question that I have asked the insurance commissioner or insurance companies. I suppose potentially it could. If everybody's allowed to shrink their universe to only the people that they want to cover because they're cheaper to cover, then I guess, insurance companies hopefully wouldn't, but they could start doing that in other states.
I appreciate that. And may I ask one on a totally different area? When we were going through the bill, are if religious organizations that offer insurance, did I understand correctly, they are exempt?
Melanie Scheibel, for the record, they maintain the current exemptions that they have. So there is not an exemption in the Affordable Care Act except for, of course, the First Amendment. And so they would maintain that same status.
So they'd have to provide the coverage or the protections, include that in their issuance of insurance.
Melanie Scheibel, for the record, yes, they would have to cover anybody, but that means allowing them to purchase an insurance policy or be added to an insurance policy that doesn't speak to the actual medications, procedures, treatments that they would have to cover. That is covered by a different area of law.
Excellent. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Thank you, Chair.
Committee members, any additional questions? I don't see any. So we will move to support testimony. Is there anyone in Carson City wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 352? Hello.
Good afternoon. For the record, Brooke Maylath, that's BROOKEMAYLATH. And I cannot tell you how important this bill is for marginalized communities. There are several marginalized communities, including the one that I have often represented in these chambers, the transgender community, those that are experiencing gender variability that does not fit the gender binary. I happen to work for the state. I'm not here in any sort of official representation of my role in the state. But I will say that on a personal level, I look out for the best interests of all Nevadans. There's no separation of, because of color, gender, of religious orientation, religious beliefs, anything. It's universal. I look after human life and the protection of human life. That's what medical care is. It is the ability to go through life in a healthy manner, and having access to health care and health insurance is critical for the contribution of our citizens to be fully engaged citizens of the state of Nevada. This is a moral line as much or more than it is a financial line. Do we include people that may be a little different from your experience? And I say yes, it does. That's what this is about. And unfortunately, in these political times, the transgender community in particular is being used as a wedge issue to motivate votes. And the science behind it is supporting us. And the cockamamie different, expectations that are put forth in misinformation that deliberately attacks our humanity, our ability to survive, our visibility, and just our mere existence is categorically unjust. So I urge you to support this bill. Support the moral equation of supporting Nevada citizens, and not buy into the insanity that is being professed through misinformation channels and propaganda that is trying to make us an enemy. And I thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else in Carson City wishing to testify in support? I don't see anyone. I don't see anyone in Las Vegas. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in support?
Chair, the public lines are open and working, but we have no callers to testify in support.
Thank you. We will move to testimony in opposition of Senate Bill 352. Is there anyone in Carson City wishing to testify in opposition? Please remember to state and spell your name for the record. You may begin when you're ready.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair and Committee. My name is Joshua Skaggs, Joshua Skaggs, and I am the Legislative Affairs Director for the Nevada Republican Party, here today in opposition to SB 352. The Nevada Republican Party opposes Senate Bill 352 on the grounds that it is both unnecessary and legally redundant. SB 352 appears to reinforce SB 163 from the 2023 session, which was opposed by all Republicans in both the Senate and Assembly and required all providers of health insurance to cover treatment of conditions relating to gender dysphoria. Current federal and state laws already provide strong protections against actual discrimination in health insurance based on sex and gender, but of course this bill, like SB 163, isn't really about discrimination, but rather about forcing consumers and taxpayers to pay for optional gender transition surgeries. We call attention to President Donald J. Trump's Executive Order 14168, signed on January 20th, 2025, titled Defending Women from Gender Ideology Extremism and Restoring Biological Truth to the Federal Government. This executive order reaffirms that the federal government recognizes only two sexes, male and female, based on immutable biological characteristics. It explicitly defines sex as a biological classification and excludes gender identity from legal recognition. SB 352's inclusion of gender identity as a protected category directly contradicts this federal directive. The resulting conflict between state and federal policies could create significant legal and administrative complications, particularly for federally funded programs in Nevada that must comply with both sets of regulations. For these reasons, we respectfully urge members of the legislature to vote no on SB 352. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else wishing to testify in opposition? I don't see anyone. I don't see anyone in Las Vegas broadcast. Is there anyone on the line?
To testify in opposition to Senate Bill 352, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue.
Hello? Am I on live? Hello, Chair and members. Thank you. I don't know if I'm online. It's kind of weird talking.
You are
to a
online.
blank
We can
screen,
hear
but-
you. We can hear you. Please remember to
Okay,
state and
okay.
spell your name for the record.
All right. This is Kimberly Fergus, KIMBERLYFERGUS. Chair and members, thank you. I rise in strong opposition of SB 352. It's an overreaching, ideology-driven mandate disguised as anti-discrimination law. This bill is not about fairness. It's a Trojan horse to force controversial transgender ideology onto insurers, providers, and taxpayers. First, it mandates coverage for gender transition procedures regardless of medical judgment, even when similar services wouldn't be covered otherwise. Second, it weaponizes licensing boards, creating vague, subjective standards and opening the door to activist-driven discipline against good doctors. Third, it places science with politics. Terms like sex characteristics and perceived gender ideology are legally undefined, forcing providers to practice based on ideology, not evidence. Fourth, it creates unfunded mandates, pushing costs onto already strained local systems and working families. Finally, it chills free speech and professional discretion, threatening licenses if providers disagree with shifting political definitions. Nevada's healthcare must be grounded in biology, ethics, and professional integrity, not coerced by social engineering. I urge you to vote no on SB 352. And lastly, it doesn't matter it's not about color, race, gender, creed, anything. I mean, this is just protecting us law-abiding citizens' taxes. Thank you.
Thank you for your
Have a blessed
testimony.
day.
Broadcast, is there anyone else on the line?
Chair, we have no more callers for opposition at this time.
Thank you. We will move to neutral testimony. Is there anyone in Carson City wishing to testify in neutral?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Adam Plain, PLAIN with the Nevada Division of Insurance. We did submit written comment on Senate Bill 352. I want to thank Assembly members Cole and O'Neill because their questions touched on exactly what we had submitted. If you care to read it for more in-depth, to Assembly member Cole's question, we did have a concern about the age banding issue. We worked with Senator Scheibel. Amendment 208 corrected that particular item in our view. So as long as the federal age rating bans under 45 CFR section 147.102 remain, then the Nevada state law would comply with that and allow that age banding to continue. To Assemblymember O'Neill's question, we did raise the specter, as has been discussed recently today, that the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services published a proposed market stabilization rule in early March. The market stabilization rule does cite Executive Order 14187 as impetus for explicitly barring, quote, sex trait modification from consideration as an essential health benefit. Long story short, if that market stabilization rule is finalized as proposed, any treatment relating to, quote, sex trait modification would be explicitly barred as an essential health benefit, regardless of how the state categorized it originally, and it would potentially trigger federal deferral provisions. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Assemblymember Cole.
So my question for you is the timing. Like if this bill were to pass and get signed into law, say tomorrow, and then the federal government does something different, like in 3 days, does that still trigger deferral, or does it have to be the opposite timing?
For the record, Adam Plain, Nevada Division of Insurance. That is a good question. We don't 100% know. The proposed market stabilization rule, like I said, was published on March 10th. It did publish with a 30-day comment period, which has since elapsed. We have no idea when that rule might be finalized. We also don't know what position CMS might take if they do finalize the rule as proposed, whether they would finalize it as for the next policy year, meaning January 1, 2026. They might finalize it immediately with retroactive repercussions. It would be impossible to state, really.
I don't believe we have any other questions, but I always appreciate you being here. I don't see anyone else walking up for neutral testimony in Carson City. I don't see anyone in Las Vegas. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in neutral of Senate Bill 352?
Chair, we have no callers for neutral.
Thank you. Senator, would you like to give any final remarks?
Yes, thank you. Of course, I'm not sure I need to clarify, but since we are making a record here, I just want to make sure everybody understands that this doesn't affect the procedures, treatments, what is covered by an insurance plan. This puts into state law what is already existing at the federal level to ensure that people aren't discriminated against when it comes to obtaining health care in Nevada. I also failed to mention one requested amendment from the Department of Health and Human Services. As we did work with a lot of stakeholders on this, there was an amendment I agreed to make that I forgot to present to you to include language stating that the provisions of this section do not prohibit the department from determining eligibility for participation or coverage under Medicaid in a manner that is otherwise authorized by state or federal law. So I hope that you'll consider including that amendment.
Thank you for being with us today and presenting such an important bill. I will close the hearing on Senate Bill 352. 1 minute recess. Committee's back to order. I will pass it to Speaker Yeager.
Thank you, Chair. I think this discussion has been a good one on this bill, and I'm glad that we got some clarification on what I think was some inaccuracies that were presented in the opposition testimony. I did want to let the committee know as well that I looked, and the Senate passed this out on a bipartisan vote of 17-4. Given the importance of this issue and the fact that the federal government is engaging in what can only be described as severe whiplash at this point, I would be willing, with your permission, Chair, if you would allow it to waive Assembly Standing Rule 57-4, which requires a 24-hour waiting period before we vote this legislation out. So with your permission, Chair, I would love to do that and make a motion to amend and do pass with the amendment as presented by the sponsor.
I will absolutely allow that, but we do have to go into a 5-minute recess beforehand. Just a quick recess. Oh, just a quick recess. We will now come back to order. We will now conduct a work session to take measure on the committee has heard in today's hearing. However, I may invite a witness to come forward for clarification or any questions during our consideration of a measure. Today, we will work session Senate Bill 352, which revises provisions relating to health care.
And Chair, with your permission, I would move to amend and do pass with the following language amended that was referenced, and that would be, quote, "The provisions of this section do not prohibit the department from determining eligibility for participation or coverage under Medicaid in a manner that is otherwise authorized by state or federal law."
Thank you, Speaker. I have a first from Speaker Yeager. I have a second from Assemblymember Monroe Moreno. Are there any discussion on the motion? Assemblymember Urick.
Thank you, Chair. And while I certainly appreciate the intent of this bill and the discussion that has occurred on this motion to suspend the rules, I'm sorry, was the motion to actually vote on this, or was it just to suspend the rules?
It's to vote on it.
To actually vote on it. So I just wanted to confirm that. Until I have a chance to kind of personally do a little bit more research, I'm going to vote no today on the hopes that the additional research will substantiate on my own what has been professed here. So I'm going to reserve that right and just let you know that that's the reason I'm going to vote no today.
Assemblymember O'Neill.
Chair, excuse me. I want to be voting no because actually I wanted to talk with Senator Scheibel a little more about the bill to make sure I understood it, and also with our insurance commissioner on, I read his letter that he put in here during part of the discussion. And I still have some more questions, so I don't see the rush to get this out and get done today. So I'll be a no for now. Thank you, Chair.
Assemblymember Cole.
I'd like to ditto my colleagues' comments and then also just note for the record that I'm very concerned about the potential for defrayal and our concerns with the budget overall. So that'll be why I'm voting no. Thank you.
Any further discussions or questions? Assemblymember Monroe Moreno.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And after that comment, I have to make a comment. As the chair of the Ways and Means Committee, this will have no impact on our state budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion or questions? I don't see any. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Please raise your hands. I have a nay from Assemblymember O'Neill, Urick, and Cole. Motion passes. I will assign that floor statement to Assemblymember Monroe Moreno. And that is it for our work session today. I will now open up for public comment. Please address your remarks to issues that fall within the jurisdiction of this committee. Please remember that public comment is 2 minutes each, so everyone can be accommodated. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to give public comment? I don't see anyone walking up. I don't see anyone in Las Vegas. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
Chair, the public lines are open and working, but we have no callers to provide public comment.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions or discussions before I adjourn? I don't see any. This will conclude our meeting for today. Our next meeting will be on Monday, April 28th. This meeting's adjourned.